Mic check 1, 2, mic check 1, 2. Okay. All right. Hello to Saul. Welcome back from the break. Thank you, Jasmine, so much for that wonderful introduction. We are now going to be moving into the main event of our 2024 TCYA. The main event is called the Service Hackathon. I'll go over what that is real quick, but I'll just quickly introduce myself again. Again, my name is Jason Lin. I am currently a high school math teacher going into my second year. I am a USC SD alumni. I studied applied math for my bachelor's, and then I also did my master's in education there after that. I currently live in Chino, California. I've been involved in TC since 2015. I was at TESOL back in 8th grade, part of the Inland chapter. And currently right now, my hobbies are gaming, volunteering, dancing, and playing Pokemon Sleep. If you guys don't know what that is, it's an app that tracks your sleep, but when you wake up, you can catch Pokemon. So I really like that. During today's class, we will be asking you guys to share out or read out some slides, and my trusty helper, Jasmine, is going to be coming around with the mic for any volunteers who willingly share out. And if you do share out, I do have some goodies in a bag that you can pull from. So it will be kind of like a mystery draw or a gotcha. So look out for that. I'm looking forward to hearing all of your lovely voices today. But we'll get straight into what is the Service Hackathon. So Service Hackathon, right? 2 words, Service Hackathon. What is a hackathon? Does anyone know? Can anyone share what a hackathon is? Okay, we have one in table 3. Jasmine, can you bring the mic over, table 3?
So based on my experience, like a hackathon is where a group of people join to collaborate, and it often includes computer programming, like creating a website or an application, and presenting it to a group of judges to be judged and obviously get a prize if you win.
All right, good job. Thank you so much. All right, so she just totally stole everything I was going to say in this slide, which is awesome. That saves time for me. But yeah, a hackathon usually is within computer programming, but you have a limited window of time to complete a program or a project. Now, I know not everyone here is a computer programmer, and that's not what this retreat's for, right? It's for volunteering. So what we're going to do is we're going to combine the hackathon model, right, having that short period of time, together with planning a service event. I don't have the clicker. So, in my short presentation here, we're going to quickly go over how we might go about the process of planning a service event. This is the event schedule for your TCYA retreat over these next 3 days. As you can see, on Saturday, we'll be first starting off with brainstorming ideas for a service event that your team's going to come up with together. You're going to have this afternoon to start working on actually planning that service event and hopefully turning it into an event that you can take home to your local chapters and make it into reality. Sunday, you'll see there's 2 boxes for Sunday, is when you guys will be finalizing all of your service event planning to create a presentation. And that presentation will be given to a panel of judges who will rate how well you guys thought out your service event and points of consideration where you can improve on your planning. So the general service planning process is broken down into 3 parts. We have the early phase, the intensive planning or the logistic phase, and then the final phase. And these phases are broken down to tiny little steps, and we'll see what they are. So first off, we have the early phase. Can I get a volunteer to read off all the boxes in the early phase? All right, I'm seeing in Vincent's table. Jasmine's heading over with the mic.
So the early phase starts with brainstorming, and then you move on to solidifying your general goals and direction, and then the event overview and the event scope.
All right, thank you so much. So yeah, and the early phase is where everything begins in the service planning part, right? You have to brainstorm an idea before you actually plan the idea. And once you have that idea in mind, you can start setting goals for what your service event is going to achieve. Now, let's think of a service event that hopefully most of you have been to before. How about a food distribution? Has anyone been to a food distribution? Okay, good. Most hands have gone up. Now, thinking about a food distribution, what do you think are some goals and direction that a food distribution should follow? Let's take a minute to think, and whenever whoever's ready, you can raise your hand to share out. So what are some goals of a food distribution event? All right, I have a hand in table 3. Table 3 is getting busy today.
Maintaining order, because based on like what I've done, right, we would have registration and we have to distribute numbers to the customers who are coming in. So we need to make sure that we keep that order and the consecutiveness of the numbers.
Very good. Thank you for sharing out. So yeah, service, food distribution, there's a lot of traffic control, right? You have a lot of people coming to pick up food, so you need to make sure everyone is getting to the right places in a timely manner. Any other goals for food distribution? One really obvious in table 2.
To get equal amount of food.
Good, yes, right. We can't have a food distribution with no food. Very good job. All right, so as we can see, once we have the idea, we know we're going to do a food distribution, we need to think of these goals, right? What are some things to keep in mind for our food distribution to actually happen? So goals, again, giving food to local underserved communities, and some of the goals you want to reach during that event is making sure you have the food and how you're going to distribute the food, right? Food distribution. Next up is the intensive planning phase. Can I get another volunteer to read out all the boxes in the intensive planning phase? I see back there in table 10.
So for the intensive planning phase, you start at the task checklist plus the delegation, and then the specifications, and then the event schedule, and then you'll have your event proposal.
Very good, thank you. I love hearing all of your lovely voices. So yeah, the intensive planning phase is the bulk of the work, where you're gonna actually go into every tiny little detail that goes into planning an actual food distribution. So let's start off with the first point is a task checklist. When we think about a food distribution, what are some things that might go on a to-do list for starting a food distribution? Let's take a moment. Let's turn to a partner actually and share out what are some things you think would go on a to-do list for planning a food distribution. All right, let's finish up that last thought, that last sentence. All right, let's try to hear from a table we haven't heard from yet today. What are some things that you believe should go on a to-do list for planning a food distribution? All right, we've got hands in, sorry, table, I'm going to table 5, but we're going to come back to you, table 1, table 5.
Probably like how are you gonna advertise it?
All right. Anything else? A checklist, right? List out a few things.
Like how you're gonna advertise it, and how much food you're gonna bring, how much food you're gonna like, and then how you're gonna tell the people that to bring the food, and then where is that?
All right. So he said we can, advertise the food distribution, letting the community know where to get food. We can secure the food, find out the routes, who's going to deliver the food to the distribution, and also making sure that the attendees who come know how to receive the food. Very good. Thank you, Table 5. And then we're going to come back to Table 1 here. You can share out, anything that he also shared, or add some things to that to-do list that you can think of. Table 1. They're on their way.
Could the speaker raise their hand?
All right, Table 1. Thank you.
We think determining how much food will be distributed, how many stations we should have for each food product, and who should be stationed for the distribution at each product.
Awesome, very good. Thank you, Table 1. So we heard new things in Table 1, right? We thought about, in the actual event, how many stations are we going to need to pass out the food? How much food are we going to need if we're distributing in, let's say, a city with a population of a lot of underserved people or families, right? So the reason why I call on 2 tables for this one is because when it comes to intensive planning, there are so many details to get into consideration of, and through collaboration, right, putting your minds together, you can be able to cover all the things you have to consider. I also listed some here. They were shared, partnering with food banks. Maybe to get food, you don't have to depend on a direct donor of food. You can work with a food bank who maybe is collecting a lot of canned goods or maybe a lot of fresh veggies and fruits. And then the final phase, I'll read this one because we won't really get into it, is because the final phase covers the actual event during the day of the operation. So on the day of the event, what has to happen, that'll be in the final phase. And then after the event happens, also reflecting on how well your event was and what are some areas of improvement for that event. So yes, the general event planning process is very long, requires a lot of steps, but that is what our whole retreat is for, right? Over the next few days, you and your team will be putting your heads together to create a wonderful service event. In order to help you with that, you will all be receiving a hackathon proposal worksheet from your group leader. Later in this session, we'll be going on to that worksheet to look at where to get started and start brainstorming some ideas for your hackathon proposal. So there are some components that we'll ask you to include in your proposal, the first one being the SDG. Does anyone remember from Alvina's presentation, what does SDG stand for? All right, Table 8's gonna steal it. Table 8. Raise your hand high.
It stands for Sustainable Development Goals.
Good. Thank you, Table 8. So yes, the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs, are a number of goals put out by the United Nations so that by 2030 we can develop the globe to be a better place. We're gonna play a short video here that will go over all of the SDGs really quick so you get a better idea of which SDG that your team can choose for your service hackathon.
Did you know that the UN Sustainable Development Goals are a universal call to action that unites 193 countries around the world? If these global goals are fulfilled by 2030, life on Earth will be better for everyone. So, what are these goals? eliminate poverty in all its forms. No hunger. Everyone should have safe, nutritious, and sufficient food. Everyone has equal access to healthcare, thus ensuring our well-being and a healthy life. Equal access to a quality education. Ensure gender equality where women and girls have the same opportunities as men and boys. By achieving these goals, each member of our society will be equal, safe, and happy. UN global goals also include access to safe drinking water and sanitation, access to clean energy that is safe for people and the environment, sustainable and stable economic growth. Everyone has a decent job, strong infrastructure, and the support of innovations. Lower inequality within and among countries. Cities and settlements be developed without damaging the environment and people. Achieving these goals will result in the well-being of people and our planet. We can further take care of our environment with the following goals: sustainable and safe production and consumption of products. Take urgent measures to reduce climate change and its impact. Ensure the sustainable use and protection of ocean and sea resources. Restore and protect Earth's ecosystems. By achieving these goals, we will form a society where strong institutions ensure peace and justice. It is important for everyone to be involved and to build partnerships for achieving sustainable development goals. You are part of this process. Demand the implementation of these goals. Take the lead and share information with your friends.
Right, so we saw in that video that there are a total of 17 SDGs. That means you have 17 SDGs to choose from when you get into your service event planning. Later, you guys will be able to go onto your computers and go onto the actual United Nations website to learn more about these SDGs and look at some examples that are provided as well. Other things to include in your service planning as you guys are going through it are some points of consideration. These things will be listed on your worksheet, so please don't worry about having to remember all of them. But as you are thinking out what kind of service event you want to plan, you want to keep these things in mind. For example, you want to think about the impact of your service event. Are you trying to help out a local neighborhood? Or are you thinking about impacting a whole city? Maybe even a county or state, depending on the scale of your service event. Logistic feasibility, how possible is it to make it happen? If your service event was, let's make a rocket ship for every household in the United States, is that logistically feasible? No. Can I get some head nods? Yes, no? Okay. I feel like there's some mad scientists in here who are like, yeah, I can do that. Creativity, how innovative is the event? You could plan a food distribution that's exactly like the ones TC has, but we already have those service events, so maybe you can think outside of the box. And what are some new possible events that you could have in your TC chapter? Sustainability, is this an event that you can repeat multiple times? Going back to the rocket example, right? If every household already has a flying rocket, would you have to pass them out again? No, I don't think so, unless they broke it. And then overall, you want to think about the holistic quality of the event. Vocab word, does anyone know what holistic means? Okay, table 3.
Holistic means that you're considering several factors at once.
Very good. Yes, thank you. So yes, holistic means considering all possible points, right? When we talked about the intensive planning phase, what are all of the details that you can consider for your service event? So we are going to get into this brainstorming process. I will break you guys, or I'll break away from you guys so you can meet with your small groups to go over the first part, which will be the green part on your proposal worksheet. Again, your group leader will be sharing that with you. You only really have 2 boxes. One is your team has to think about what SDG you're going to choose for your service event. And then you're actually just going to list out possible events that your team comes up with. So let's say, going back to the SDGs, you did number 2, zero hunger. So some ideas that you could have with zero hunger: food distribution, maybe hot food distribution, right? Maybe you're serving actual meals at your service event. Maybe you're passing out food stamps for zero hunger, things like that. So list out possible ideas in that second box there, and then by the end of this brainstorming session or at the start of our work session this afternoon, your team does have to agree on one service event that you guys are going to go through with planning. QR code will take you to that website for the United Nations that talks about the SDGs, so you have that resource for you there. And so before we split up, do we have any questions? Table 3?
Is there any like actual computer programming involved in?
There could be if your service event had something to do with computer programming, right? Maybe your service event ties in with quality education and you're teaching a community of children how to get into programming, right? So the possibilities are limitless. Any other questions? All right, well, during this brainstorming session, the staff will be walking around. You have your group leaders and your mentors who can also answer any questions that you have. We will come back at around 10:38, so you guys have about 13 minutes. All right, go ahead, open up any laptops, and put your heads together with your groups. Do you guys need to connect your devices to the Wi-Fi? We have the Wi-Fi information up on the slides.